Hello and welcome to the Make It Epic Wedding Podcast, where we believe all weddings can be epic in their own right and uniquely you. We're your hosts, Tim and Matt, a photographer and videographer in the industry. Tune in as we dive deep and unpack all things weddings, how to make it fun, stress-free, and provide other creatives in the industry tips and tricks to raise the standard when it comes to planning the perfect wedding. Hey mate, what's new?
Hey, mate. Not a whole lot. Just ticking some boxes, getting some things done. I've on the download, changing a whole lot of things up on Matt Ashton Photography. There's some things in the works at the moment, which I'm very excited for. So watch this space, dropping it like it's hot on the podcast. So yeah, there's a few things happening in the background, which I am. Do you want to
give us a bit of a hint? Huh? You're going to keep us all waiting.
No, I'm going to keep you waiting for a little bit.
Okay.
I'm just going to make you want to come back next week and the week after and the week after that. And maybe in like 6 weeks, I'll tell you what's going on. But yes, that's happening. I had some absolute epic weddings over the weekends, working with some amazing vendors, which is always a good time. How about yourself, mate? What's going on?
It has been, honestly, this has been the best season of my wedding filmmaking career. Everything is on point. It's really like showcasing the fact of all the hard work, I suppose, that you put in, and every like wedding that I'm doing now, like just working with absolute legends, like ideal clients, amazing vendors, and it just feels like we're on a good trajectory to, like really doing what aligns with what I want to do. So I'm pretty good. It's busy. I'm on the editing train non-stop. I've got a couple of weeks off next month though, which is pretty exciting. I've got a wedding up in Queensland in Noosa, so decided to take the family up. Took 2.5 weeks off and gonna road trip it up.
Look at you go, mate. That's exciting. And is that on the back end of us shooting together in Queensland? Because we've got a wedding in Queensland too. Oh no, that can't be then. You're not going for that long.
We're in May.
That's in May.
That's it. That's another destination wedding.
Anyway, I think we were finally been talking about, we really need to book stuff for that, and we just kept avoiding it. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh no, that's coming up really quickly. Anyway,
we just bought our ferry ticket, so that was good. But
yeah.
there has been a lot happening. But it's just, are you feeling like you're just hitting your stride, like in terms of your business? Like I know, like you've been at it a while. We've both pretty much been at it for a couple of years now. But it was always this, I suppose, like we're both like really ambitious to try and really be involved and shoot the types of weddings that we want to shoot. And every year I feel like, I'm trying to step up my game and be a better filmmaker, a better storyteller, a better editor. And it's just kind of feeling like we're just in a good position. It feels like, the work that I'm producing is really aligned with a couple stories that I want to tell.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, I don't know, at the moment, definitely, I don't know what I've done or why it's happened, but because I haven't changed a whole lot in terms of the way I'm shooting, but I definitely think that like some of the content I'm putting out at the moment is probably some of the best I've been putting out for a long time.
I agree.
Which is cool. And, whether that's to do with potentially like, the couples I'm shooting and the way that, their style, their wedding and the ideas they have around their wedding itself, or whether that's just because maybe I'm looking at weddings in a slightly different way, but I would say my editing is still exactly the same as I've always kind of done in terms of like the presets I use and things like that. So, things just seem to be clicking at the moment, which is good. And
lovely.
I had 2 amazing weddings on the weekend, and on Saturday was probably one of the best sunsets I've had in I couldn't even tell you how long. Like
this is a
silly.
cracker. This is a cracker, right? Because the same day you had a cracking sunset, and I had no sunset on the south coast.
Yeah, it was rain, and like honestly, I heard it was like I was for the first time shooting at Pasadena, at Church Point, Northern Beaches Way, and like man, epic venue. It's amazing, literally right on, right on the water, good spot. Wow, epic spot. Anyway, but. It was really cool to shoot there. But yeah, like I heard it in the city, like Sydney CBD, it was raining where we were like 15, 20 minutes down the road, nothing. South Coast pouring with rain all day. And like I got one of the best sunsets I've probably shot in
Good
I
on
don't know,
him.
6 months.
Good on him. Love it.
So yeah, lucky for that couple.
Mate, well, let's tell everyone what are we chatting about today, because this is pretty cool. We are going to get a little bit personal here.
We probably started talking about it already, haven't we? We kind of just like dive in about what we did on the weekend and how we loved the weekend and all the good stuff that happened. But we're talking about our favorite weddings this summer and what made them, I guess, our favorite, or what made them stand out.
Yeah, and I think it's probably good to put a disclaimer that these are purely our opinion. Our own
As our whole
opinion.
podcast is.
Yeah, so
Don't roast us.
we are not saying if we don't talk about your wedding that your wedding was shit. But no, it's not like that.
That's why we're not going to name names.
That's why we're not naming names. But mate, let's actually chat about this direction in Australia where weddings are really becoming more European, aren't they?
Yeah. I actually heard an interesting stat the other someone I can't remember who I can't remember who we were talking to about it, but they were saying that like Australian weddings are way more intense than like European weddings when it comes to like
I find that hard to
planning.
believe.
I know, which I was like a bit mind blown by that stat. But anyway, yeah, there's definitely some like aspects of European weddings that we see on the gram and on the socials and stuff like that we're definitely being introduced and incorporated into like the Aussie weddings now, which I'm excited by. There's some cool things happening. There's some cool trends coming around at the moment that everyone's loving, and even just like people are becoming more and more unique and actually doing things because they're really excited by that too. Which obviously, if you've been listening to us for a little bit, we get excited by you guys out there planning your wedding in the way that you want to do things, not just the way that it's been done for X amount of years and your grandma told you to do it.
Yeah, well, that's right. So look, summer is coming to an end, and we really wanted to go a little bit personal and I suppose like chat about like what are the key features for us that made this summer like some of the best weddings that we have ever shot. And look, I'm gonna kick it off, and I'm gonna actually start off with like really, really like epic garden ceremonies and receptions where you're really seeing like a sense of like styling and like personality put into that arena. Like it's not just like an arch with a standard bunch of flowers. Like it's actually a lot of like effort is put into the color palette, how bold like you're going with the seating chart or that direction, or even how the reception is looking in terms of like what are the bominaries. I had a wedding on the weekend, and the groom is an engineer. And flies a lot. So for a bominary, he actually like made these little like baggage tags that were made out of brass, and they were like individualized with like laser cut initials of every guest.
Yeah, that's wild.
That is so good, so good. And it was at Merribee. It was phenomenal. Like it was really, really, really amazing. I just loved the direction of how like a beautiful garden ceremony that was simple but beautifully styled. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of rain, but it did hold off. And it was just so personal to them. Like these guys they travel around Europe quite a fair bit, so I'm assuming their European influence has really kind of taken charge. But that was something that was really such a highlight to me, and I'm seeing it more and more, which I bloody love.
Yeah, I'm all about the details too. I was when you're talking about your little details that make things personal. Even on the weekend, actually, at the wedding at Pasadena with I'm going to name drop because these guys are legends. But Daisy May and Josh, they had some really cool little Daisy had a very specific, I guess, idea around the day for her, and her kind of like little theme inside all the themes for her was bows, which I was like, this is cool, like love it. Like so there was little bows on say like champagne glasses in the prep, through like all the styling and signage. There was like bows hanging and like big long strands of ribbon hanging off. But the little personal touch wrapped around the menus, instead of having like a place card, actually on the bow, her sister handmade bows with each individual guest's name on the strand of ribbon coming off the bow after it was tied. And it looked magical. Like I've never seen that before, and I was frothing on it. It looked like, as a detail shot, it looked so nice. Maybe we'll share that on the podcast as
that
a bit of an
is
idea.
Amazing.
Something super personal because the sister made it too. So I definitely think like all of these like little details we're talking about. Yes, they are little things, but they definitely elevate and give your day like a very much like of a bit more of an elegant feeling, but also with that personal touch as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think as a whole, most couples are paying more attention to those little things. And like I get that, having a stylist, having a florist and putting a bit more effort and effort and energy into some of these aspects can increase the cost. But when you look at the overall image, that is what you see. That is a vision for your wedding day, and that end product, like how that looks in those photos and videos, and just how like your reaction is when you actually see it finish. So I wanted to make a special mention that I captured the couple walking into the reception, into another garden reception, and for them to see it the first time, and the bride literally like almost like fell to her knees because she's like, "This is my vision come to life. I had faith in my vendors." And then when she's seen it there, just set up, candles lit, it was like covered by some trees, so like a really allowed like no sun to be like penetrating the tables, but it just showcased like that area as a whole, and it was just her vision come to life, super personal for her, and it was a really amazing moment to capture. So
Yeah.
something like that really just showcases, it may not be significant to you or for others, but to someone it could be everything.
Yeah, I think it makes me think about the wedding that we shot, the last wedding of last year, actually, where the couple, it was quite windy. They really wanted to have the reception outside, and they pushed for that because the venue probably wasn't overly keen for it. And they got it. And yeah, it was a little bit windy, but that's okay. But it was really cool, like to see everybody literally just sitting on like, outside under some like festoon lights, hanging out, having dinner together. Like I love that, and I love that the couple was so headstrong about like pushing back towards the venue, being like, no, no, like we're going to push to get it outside no matter what. And I think it's the little things that you can do on a wedding day, that does make it special, or that you are like genuinely excited for. And for these guys from day one, they were like, yep, we're having it outside, we're having it outside, we're having it outside, even if it's hot, even if it's windy, we're going to do it. And I think that like for us, when I think about like weddings this summer that really stand out, like that's probably one of them, because I remember that they were so sure of the vision they had, and they were so sure on the way that they wanted to do it, that like nothing was going to stop them, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really understanding that if you have a vision, you need to go for it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's always going to be in the back of your mind. And like this brings it back to a couple of weddings this summer where we can talk about these like really amazing epic entrances into the reception, right? Like a few come to mind, a few that we were together at, and man, not only like was it wild, but it was actually just so special to see that couple, you know, having that vision come to life for them. So there was a DJ. I'm going to shout out to Silent Shout, who actually mashed together like this couple's favorite songs and then made it into this entrance. So as they came in, he had the whole wedding party, everyone, every single guest on that wedding was on the dance floor for about 10 minutes, and he could not shake them off. Could not shake them off, and we had to start speeches. Like, but it was just brilliant. And I'm starting to see an entrance that really sets a tone for the rest of the night. And that is something I'd love to continue to see. And if that is something that is unique to you, if that is something that you think that you want to create that vibe for your reception, because it sets the tone for the rest of the night.
100%. Yeah, it's definitely everyone wants that like pre-dinner dance floor, get the jitters out, get the energy into the room, get the drinks flowing early kind of vibe. We had that. I had actually on the weekend again for Daisy and Josh. Her dad. So Daisy's dad is a musician, absolute legend, funny dude. If you saw him, you'd be like, okay, he has the energy, and he can play saxophone, and
I was
so
going to say sax, yeah.
yeah, so he played. I'm pretty sure he plays. By just looking at him, I have no idea, but I'm just assuming he plays a few instruments. And he played saxophone and was in front of them, started the party for everybody. So like the bridal party came in with some great energy and like had a bit of a boogie, but then he brought the vibes. They came running on in as well, and like it was so much fun. Like, and I, like that kind of like trumpet, saxophone, it's a vibe at the moment, and everyone seems to be loving it. And whenever you have a band, and if you can add that in, it always seems to elevate the sound and the good times on the day for show.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, we're here for a good time, not a long time when it comes to the reception. And I think that everybody gets really, really excited by the fact that you want to bring the energy too. And I think that everyone has that energy kind of like cooped up and built up throughout canapé time, and they're ready to kind of like unleash it a little bit. And I think sometimes if you do get that energy out, prior to starting speeches, when everyone sits down and actually gets into speeches, they've all kind of like, everyone's resetting themselves a little bit and just like breathing again, but they've got a little bit of that like energy out quite early on, which I think it does really help you guys too. And sometimes it means that we don't have to stick around too long for the dance floor stuff later, because that early one's better.
Well, are you starting to see that, formalities are, getting over and done with quite quickly? So dance floors opening up earlier for more dance time, which is brilliant, right? Like we don't have to, have a half an hour between speeches. We don't need to wait 45 minutes for dinner to be cleared. Like it's actually, we're starting to see that formalities are being chosen very carefully, and they're aligned to what formalities are chosen for themselves. So this is really good to see in terms of how it showcases what's more important to you: getting that dance floor open as early as possible, or having more formalities.
I've been seeing a lot of speeches and stuff happening through canapé, cocktail hour as
Yes,
well.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
just spreading them out a little bit more. So therefore, like, like cocktail hour is great. And if you do have a whole hour, to throw a speech or two in there that maybe go for 10 minutes, it's kind of nice. And then it also, a lot of people have been doing it just before your guests are going into the reception. So it kind of breaks up that a little bit, gets everyone's attention for a few minutes,
That's cool.
and then
That's
pushes them
definitely
into the reception. So it's something that, like some people are like, oh, we've got so many speeches. Well, that may be a way to kind of like still get to cocktail hour, also then break it up a little bit, and then still get into the reception and finish like formalities quite early to be able to get on the dance floor and get it moving.
Hot tip, right? Put a
golden nugget alert.
Golden nugget. Put a timer on your speeches. If you have a couple of family members or friends giving speeches, just say 5-minute timer. That is it. That is all you have. And I have seen, and I was witness to a 45-minute speech from someone which cut into the dance floor time and completely just it didn't.
It happens.
It wasn't well. People weren't happy, but.
And they probably told them to have a 5-minute. They probably knew. Like, I think you would know if you're someone.
Yeah.
I don't want to be generic there, but you're someone is going to talk for too long. Like, you kind of know that. I do think it's quite hard to make these people stick to a 5-minute schedule. So I would say if you want them to speak for 5 minutes and they can speak, say you've got 2 minutes, because they're going to speak for 10 or whatever, or be ruthless and I don't know, get like a debating bell out and start ringing it. I don't know. I've always been joking. I'm waiting for someone to do that. Like get a bell out and start ringing it when your time's up. Like, let's go.
That could be so rude.
Stand up and clap.
Yeah. Look, I think the 5-minute time is just an indication that there is a time limit. Like it's not an invitation to speak as long as you want. But also, having speeches at canapés, as the videographer in their house, I'll just put a caveat there that it does make it quite difficult to set up everything and ensure that that is captured correctly. Because usually at canapés, everyone's walking around still. Like there's no like light or a lectern to like guide their presence. So I always have to find that, all right, make sure you stand here, please.
Yeah, it's difficult for you. Easy for me. Doesn't matter.
All right. Another point that I have loved this summer is the fact that a lot of couples are prioritizing the quality of the food and also like the drinks, right? So when you start to see the whole wedding party with an Aperol in their hand and everyone's having a good time, there's really nice canapes going around. As a self-fledged foodie, I do love a good canapé. Haven't choked on one yet this year, so that's a plus.
That's good. You should tell everyone the story about how you nearly died last year.
No, we're good.
What an arancini.
We'll leave that. If you see me in person, you can ask me about it. But,
send him a DM. Ask him.
But just seeing some really good caterers getting booked for the quality of the food and service that they provide, and also like bars and caravan bars, and seeing the quality of drinks that they are serving, mate, they are on point. It's literally sets a vibe. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think that it's always good when you walk around after dinner or after canapes or something like that, and you're hearing everybody having a chat about how good the food was and things like that. Like
Oh,
it always like people. Not only people are happy because they're eating, but I think when it's like a high quality meal, like they're stoked because
mm.
they. I think I don't know. Maybe traditionally, typically people think that like wedding I guess meals are not that exciting or they're really small or there's not a lot to them. Where I'm seeing like, there's some full big plates out there, with like, and there's some people out there that are stoked to have a whole heap of food on their plate, some good drinks and things like that too. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think, like everybody wants, like you don't want to organize a wedding and have like crappy food there, right? Like
No, no,
and
of
that's what
course
we're
not.
not what we're saying, but we're saying there's probably not another element to that in terms of like, just a little bit more of an elevation in terms of the quality.
Yeah, like really focusing on the aspects that really are important to you. And food and entertainment are things that it is a wedding day. These are things that you do want to ensure that you can afford the best quality that you can. But it's just really good to see that there are other vendors out there, and these vendors are growing, that really are focusing on the quality of the service that they are providing. And we're starting to see this shift where some vendors perhaps maybe struggling for bookings while others have the next year to 2 years completely booked out. And I think as a whole, couples are more consumer conscious. They're more conscious in the decisions that they are making with their wedding. They are more conscious of who they are booking to bring a level of experience and a service that goes beyond just what they are paid for. And I think that is really showcasing how good Australia is in the wedding scene. And we talk about these European weddings. Man, I like there's horror stories absolutely everywhere, but I'm really really loving the vendors that I am working with. And there's not to say there's bad vendors, but am just really
Well, there
enjoying.
is. There is bad vendors.
There is bad vendors,
Like it's okay. No, like I feel like I feel like it's probably like we always talk about like trying to pick the right vendor, right? Like, and it's one of those things where like you can pick the right vendor, but you have to know that like sometimes there are going to be some bad vendors out there. And we're not saying
there
that.
is compromise. There is
Yeah,
compromises, and
yeah.
we're not simply just talking about the more expensive the vendor, the better the quality, or the better the service. We're simply saying that, or I'm simply saying the fact that there are vendors that put so much care and quality and energy into the service they provide that it provides an experience far beyond just the product that they service.
Like there's a lot of photographers, there's a lot of videographers, there's a lot of makeup artists, and sometimes you have to look beyond that and see what they are offering to be able to understand, who it is that you see as a good vendor, so to say, when it comes to potentially the experience they're going to offer you. And like for me and Tim, like we're massive on client experience because for us, like the shooting aspect, yes, we think about it and we know, but like for us, it comes to second nature. And what we really value on the day as well is like creating a client experience or a couple experience for you guys that is amazing. And if we're creating that experience for you, I think that that's what elevates a day the most out of everything, like, so for me,
100%.
like, for example, on the weekend, like as everyone knows, I love to carry a speaker around and play some tunes. Right. And on the weekend, we did a signing post ceremony and the musos had packed up and they'd walked away. And like everyone else had gone, we'd already done family photos. The celebrant was standing there waiting and the couple was sitting there like about to sign their paperwork. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We've got to like put some tunes on for this. And I asked them what song they wanted to listen to. Someone dropped a name of a song within 10 seconds or maybe less, 5 seconds, the song was on playing. And they were like, oh, this is so much better, right? And so for me, that's a little experience that I'm like, that makes life so much nicer because yes, it's like, you're signing in the registry by yourself and that's okay with like, your witnesses there. I was there, like that's great, but we can make this better. And so I think for me personally, it's the little things on a wedding day that I know that I can do that just elevates that in such an easy way. And I think that when I think about the weddings this summer, all the weddings this summer where I've had, a list of songs that couples like and the bridal party like, and I can crank some tunes and have a good time with them, have a laugh, and create an atmosphere that they genuinely are excited about. That's where I know that like those weddings this summer have been the best. And that's probably like, I would say like quite generically, like across the board, anytime that happens, I'm like, that was an epic wedding.
Yeah, definitely. And like we've got to look at it this way. Like shooting for us is really just a small component of what we do. And like it's hard to, especially when we're trying to like showcase, what is it that makes us like truly us? Like, is it the product of our films and photos? Um, but when it comes down to it, it's actually the experience that we provide our couples as well. And like you talk about, providing, creating a vibe for music, and that is, something that we both do. And I think when people like book us together, like there's just this inclination of like communication between us that works so well that we're able just to kind of feed off each other. And I have it with a couple of photographers. I'm not sure if you have the same with other videographers, but like it just works so well because you're able to read the environment and what is it that you can do to create a better atmosphere for your couples. And if you're experiencing a bit of lull in the energy, like you've got levers to pull that allow you to bring them back up, or it's things that you can do that actually allow you to make sure that you can take your content that allows them to make sure they have a good time.
It all comes with experience, and I think that's the thing that you need to remember. If you're a photographer, a videographer, a vendor out there, and you're like, "Wow, that's amazing," I think that if I was you, I wouldn't be jumping into it if you weren't confident in the way that you're
Mm.
delivering your service currently. But if you can add another element to that to make your service better,
Yeah.
maybe something like that's a way. Or get creative. Like, don't just copy what we do because that's what we do. It may not work for you either, and that might not be your jam. But have a good think about it. If you're listening and you're like, "Wow, that's cool. What can I do?" Tick that box for us. We're stoked that you guys are even thinking about how you can elevate your experience for your couples out there.
Let me ask you a question, mate. And you know, we have shot quite a few weddings together. And what would you say is the easiest way to read a couple to be able to actually know what it is you need to do next?
Yeah. I think that the first point of contact that I actually watch, I do a lot of people watching. Obviously, that's the main probably job for us,
Creeping.
right? We're creeping with people watching, and I think typically for me, I actually love to watch couples. Obviously, when they're standing up at the ceremony, it's quite hard. But once they've signed the paperwork and the celebrant tells them to stand up and take a step away, I slightly watch out the corner of my eye how the couple interact with each other in those first few moments, because it really tells us on, like, for me, it really shows me how a couple interact with each other, especially we haven't done a session before and I've only seen them apart separately in the morning. That really shows me whether they're like they're into like affection, whether they are happy to be a little bit of distance between each other.
Mhm.
Everyone's different, right? But typically how they act in those first few moments, if they're quite cuddly and things like that, I'm like, oh, cool. Like today will be like a breeze in a sense of they're happy to be affectionate with each other. They're happy
Yeah.
to kind of like stay
There's a
close.
bit of PDA.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit of PDA never goes astray. But in terms of like how do I guess like work out the best way to approach a session, or how do I help couples relax and things like that? Normally for me it's quite simple, and I think that I just try and watch, and then I take the feeling of what they would be like in that moment. I take facial expressions, body
Yep.
language, things like that, and I try my hardest. If they are looking anything other than comfortable, I want to make sure that they're not uncomfortable. Therefore I'm doing everything I can to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible. So that's changing music, that's changing locations, that's giving them a different direction,
Yep.
or prompt, or something like that. And typically for me, most of the time when couples are feeling a little bit uneasy and awkward, it's because they don't have direction and they think they're doing the wrong thing, and they think they should be doing something else.
There is
Yeah.
one thing that I've noticed when I do work with you is that you do have a wandering eye, and you're able to assess a situation, and you notice the little things that can affect a mood, and you're very quick to react in how do I create an environment, or if I need to move the couple to a different environment to allow them to have the experience that they want. And that could be changing energy from a bit of a low to a high, or it could simply be from actually from a high to being a little bit more vulnerable as well. And I've seen you do that in a few different ways, but it's really interesting to see like how you approach that situation, because at the end of the session, even if it's been 10 minutes, you've been able to provide like pumping like some Rufus, and then suddenly we finish on like some like really like romantic songs, and
Or a
you know
bit of
there's
Ziggy or a bit of something, that's where it's
but
at. But yeah, thanks, mate. That's good. And it's hard for me, like, from like when I work with videographers, I would say, and maybe it's a bit of a pet peeve sometimes for me, but I find a lot of videographers love to just stand back and go, oh, you're the photographer, you're in charge. Get it, right? And I would say 99.9% of the time that slightly frustrates me, also makes me really happy because I like to have the control and make sure that I'm making sure that my couples are comfortable. But sometimes it would be nice to have a little bit of input from a videographer, to be like, like a bit of collaboration of like, I like this idea. And I'm always like, I'm very much a like open book when it comes to this stuff. And I'll definitely ask, the videographers I'm working with, being like, hey, do you need anything? Do you want to try anything? Do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? Do you, like, have you got enough tights? Have you got enough details? Like, I'll ask the question every single time. And most of the time I'm like, you're doing all right. Like, cool, mate. But sometimes it's nice to have that input too from you guys to make your video better. But
definitely.
Yeah, like definitely. I don't know. I definitely think that as a photographer and a videographer, or to be honest, as a vendor in general, we have the ability to create an environment, create a space, and create a feeling for our couples that is unique. And I think that this summer, for me, I've been working harder and harder on trying to achieve that. And as you kind of said, sometimes it's like, for me, reading the situation, reading the feeling, watching the body language, and noticing that, oh, well, I actually need to make sure that these couples not standing in front of their 400 guests and they're away from everybody, having a moment to themselves. Like, typically it's the groom may be uncomfortable by having his photo taken and he doesn't want everyone looking at him. What can I do to fix that? And 99% of the time, it's not that hard to change that feeling.
No, it's not hard, but I suppose it's something that takes a special skill to be able to notice that and create an environment where you can allow that to occur as well. What you described there of most videographers is probably I am the opposite.
Yeah, I was kind of like when I spoke about that, I forgot to say that you're probably the one that I don't. But probably people out there listening probably like, well, that makes sense because you two talk too much already as it is. So yeah.
But except when I'm really deep in trying to get a shot and like I look like I'm about to like shoot you with my camera.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. Whenever I take a photo of you at a wedding, it always looks like you're about to kill somebody because you're concentrating. But, like, it's fine. Or I'll walk in front of your shot, one or the other.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. But it's because I know what I want. So if you are a videographer, you want to chat more about this, maybe this is something I should chat to some videographers about. But it makes me think when I do work with other photographers that sometimes I get the comments that they're actually quite glad that for once they can allow someone else to actually just kind of take charge because the videographer then knows what they want. And like for me, like I have a plan. I know what I want, and yeah, there's sporadic things that happen throughout the day that I capture, but I know the gist of what I need to capture to be able to tell the story for my couples.
And just can I just jump in there because I know that people are like, Tim comes up with a plan before my wedding. I know you don't, but just like when you say you have a plan and you know what you want to capture, tell us that process. Like like obviously for you, like this summer, how have you kind of like because you were saying before at the start of this podcast, like you're like, oh well, like I feel like I've hit some of like the best weddings lately. I'm really happy with what's happening. I'm really happy with like my editing and the style of like wedding that I'm shooting. And obviously that all comes into like telling the story, right? And storytelling. And so how do you like on a day when you're standing there and you're like, I know I need this. Why do you know you need that?
So it starts with understanding that when you're talking about film, when you're talking about cinema, when you're talking about moving frames, you have so many different variables to actually tell that story. So in comparison to a photographer, they have a single frame. And it's why most photographers are better storytellers because they have that single frame to tell a story. Now, when it comes to video, you have a moving frame, you have how that frame is positioned, you have the composition, you have how it's actually composed, but also you have audio, you have sound, you have so many different elements that allow you to tell that story. And for me, it can be quite different in how a story is told, and I really like to get quite personal. But how I know is by going through a process before the actual wedding day, understanding who you are as people. I've talked about like my story questionnaire that I provide to all my couples, and it really gives me an insight into who they are. And just quickly, it just showcases like what are the things that really are important to them. What are their favorite films, and even if they can't tell me, they can show me what are the things that make a wedding film special to them. Is it the color, the style of editing, how fast it is, the type of music, the type of audio, how the audio is overlaid? Is it like really story driven with lots of dialogue and narrative? And these are the little things that I put in like my like storyboard for every couple. And towards the end of the end of like our journey together, like, and before the wedding, I asked for your vows as well, because your vows really give me an insight into who you are as people, but also the same as you. Like on the day, I'm watching, I'm listening to what is happening around me, and I'm making decisions of like, what do I prioritize and what do I focus on that will mean the most to this couple. And it's why I feel like I can be confident in how I'm shooting and what I'm shooting, because I know that what I'm focusing on is significant to the couple and to their story.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, it's important to remember, and we probably got a little bit off topic in terms of like, I suppose a little bit in terms of like the subject of today, but I think it's really important to listen to kind of what we've just spoken about, because for us, I think the thing that makes, and probably how the whole episode today started, was the thing that makes a wedding at the moment for us is the vendors you're working with. And we've harped on about this for 60 plus episodes now. Essentially, that's everything we talk about. Like, we want to make sure that your day is amazing and as epic as possible and is beautiful, and it's everything that you wanted as a couple, but it's also unique to you. And I think that, like for us, like we've always said, trusting your vendors is important. And me and Tim probably have never ever really opened up maybe as much as we probably should have in terms of like our processes and the way that we do things on the day itself, and maybe even being a little bit selfish and talked about our individual businesses, which it's coming. I promise you. We're going to do an episode where
we actually haven't done an episode on really just us. Well, I don't know.
No,
I feel like sometimes it's a bit obnoxious talking about
but we're going to
do a whole episode on your own business. But how long have we been doing this? A year and a half?
I don't know, year and a bit.
Yeah, year
60
and a half.
plus episodes.
Everything we have spoken about in the last year and a half, like I feel like we're starting to really see like it actually become more common with the weddings that we are shooting. And
like 100%.
Love it. Like even canopy time, like earlier ceremonies, like it's brilliant. Like less rush. Maybe a pet peeve that I might bring up, and we usually have something that what irks Matt, and
what irks Tim today.
What irks me is that I really don't want to put vendors. I really don't want to put blame on vendors, but hair and makeup, like. It ran so late, and it's becoming more common that hair and makeup is running late, and it's just like you start to see how much it affects that process for the whole day. And we had to avoid a first look because hair and makeup wasn't ready. It's pretty crazy.
If you're out there and you're thinking like, because I to be honest, it's probably one of the most common last minute emails I would get from couples at the moment is like, oh, my hairdresser makeup artist asked me what time we should be ready. I'm just going to put it out there and be very generic here. So if your photographer is starting at, or videographer, or both is starting at a said time, let's just say I'm going to pull a number out of the air. Let's say we're starting at 1:30, right? Your hair and makeup probably should be aimed to be done by 1 o'clock. Let's just call it that. Like half an hour prior to when we turn up. That way there's still a little bit of leeway. Even when we turn up, we're not going to be shooting with you guys straight away. There's still some like details and stuff we're going to do. So even if they are running overtime a little bit, that's okay. But I would say typically my answer to everyone's email, I should have it pre-written, is like, hey, insert person's name, thanks so much. I would say 30 minutes before I'm due to arrive would be amazing. That way we have plenty of time to get everything done. And I think if you follow that, Tim's pet peeve will slowly disappear. And I think that's
the reason I say because of the significance it has on the rest of the day.
100%.
The last thing,
I agree with you. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I agree.
I can just see hair and makeup artists. You guys need to stop. Hounding us.
Send all hate mail to above below visuals on Instagram.
Oh yeah. Hey. Hashtag I love Kate. All right, let's wrap it up.
I think that at the end of the day, for us, as we've said, is the things that like I guess the most significant this summer, the things that we love the most are when you put yourselves into the planning, into the final result, when you're excited by what is happening. Is there one single thing that we are loving at the moment? No, because the whole wedding is usually, when you have that mindset, is amazing. And we're all about that. We want to make sure that you guys are doing things the way that you want to do them, without feeling the pressures of the outside world. Maybe it's the mainstream way of people doing things. If you're listening and you're like, what should I do for my winter wedding or my summer wedding 2024, end of 2024? Do things that are important to you. And if you've listened to 50% of our episodes, I guarantee we've said that statement at least once. We've probably said it 6 times today.
We have. So we'll just make mention that, again, like, these are our personal opinions, and the reason why I really wanted to focus on like a really amazing, like, epic entrance into the wild dance floor and a quality food and drinks is because those are the things that I value as well, and they're really the things that I love to showcase as part of your story. But again, things that you add and do to your wedding should be what you want, not what you see others. So
amazing. Well,
mic drop.
As always, we love to hear from you guys. Make sure you jump on, leave us a review. I think Apple is still the best place to do so because Spotify does not allow it. But reach out to us. We would love to hear from you guys. If there's anything you want us to chat about, because for us, like we've always said in the past, that it's all well and good for us to chat about these things. But if it's not going to be beneficial for you out there listening, you're probably going to stop listening. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting good value from us too. Let us know where you're listening from too. I don't know. We'd love to connect with you guys. I think Instagram is the best place. But yeah, until next time.
And if you're a hair and makeup artist and you want to come on and chat about how we can improve things and, make sure that this is a smooth process around...
Tim will do a one-on-one episode with you just so you can roast him.